Many thanks for staying with Citizen Extra. A section of party aspirants have accused officials in Deputy President William Ruto's office of being involved in a scheme to rig them out. Those among we'll be playing a clip for you from Oscar Sudi, who's the MP Kapseret constituency in Uasin Gishu County, as well as Jackson Mandago, the Uasin Gishu governor, on the same. Let's listen in.
Iwe uhuru na wazi, na wale wanaketi kwa maofisi zingine na kufikiria watapanga jinsi ya kuiba kura, tunawaambia washindwe. Semeni washindwe. Kama umeajiriwa kazi unakula mshahara, endelea kula mshahara yako polepole. Maneno ya kupiga kura waachia wananchi wa kaunti hii. Kama wewe uko ofisi ya Deputy President ama huko kwa ofisi ya president, wewe fanya kazi uliandikwa kule. Maneno ya wewe kukuja kupanga hapa ati Buseki atakuwa gavana, sijui nani atakuwa mjumbe, sijui nani atakuwa nani. Nataka niambie hao wenye wako kwa ofisi ya Deputy President, hata sisi wote tunatoka Deputy President, kama wanataka siasa wawache kazi wakuje kupambana na wao hapa. Lakini tunataka tuwaambie wazi wasiharibie Deputy President ofisi yake. Tunataka tuwaambie Ruben Mayo na timu yake wawachane na sisi na wawachane na wasugishi.
Our guest in studio this morning, Ray Ochieng, governance analyst. Also with me this morning, Eunice Lumala, she's a governance analyst. Also joining us, Brian Mutie, governance expert, and Dunstan Omari, who is a political analyst. Dunstan, let's begin with you on this conversation. Concerns there from Oscar Sudi and Jackson Mandago. Do you think these concerns are valid?
The concerns are very valid. When you look, Lillian, at the politics of the Rift Valley, rarely does somebody get re-elected the second time. The Rift Valleys, the turnout, normally they take home almost 90% of the people who are serving in the parliament and all positions. So, Sudi, Oscar and Mandago know very well that the ground normally shifts every 5 years. Number two, they have taken the battle to the Deputy President's home. When you look at Oscar Sudi, during the Kericho by-elections, Oscar Sudi was in Kanu. They really campaigned with the other guys against William Ruto. Is it the time to pay back? Number three, when you look at Busek, the governor who is coming from Elgeyo region and who is fighting with Mandago, there seems to be a general acceptance within the diaspora vote in Rift Valley, that is in Eldoret, that Busek represents all the other communities that are there, and he is seen to be very close to the Deputy President. Is the Deputy President having his own list? I did say, Lillian, here just a few minutes ago that the parties are going to reward their loyalists. The parties are not going to reward anybody who is perceived to be a watermelon or who is perceived not to be playing to the tune of 2022. Remember, William Ruto is projecting himself to campaign for 2022. He will be in control of who gets the ticket so that they will work together towards achieving his dream of 2022. I think that those people making noise, Oscar Sudi and Mandago and the others, they should be preparing to move to independent candidate position.
Eunice, on the same, the county top seat in Deputy President William Ruto's home turf now proving to be a hot contest. What are your thoughts? Do you agree with Omari here in terms of party loyalty, tribal balance? What are we seeing likely to play out?
Well, in my view, every politics is about alignment and realignment. And therefore, it's not surprising that the Deputy President would have his own lineup of people he prefers so that he can consolidate and keep consolidating his power base. So therefore, what is happening in Eldoret is, it's shifty ground for the, the current governor and his team also, because he has a lineup as well, who feel that the Deputy President, maybe through his handlers, because you notice they are not saying the Deputy President himself, they are saying those in the office, those near the Deputy President. But basically they are pointing to him and saying that he has his own preferred candidates for these primaries. Nonetheless, we have seen places where there have been preferred candidates, for example, who have not gotten re-elected. So let's also be prepared for surprises. Much as we have to have lineups and people we prefer, and it's all about politics, because politics is power. You want to consolidate your best. Don't be surprised when you find that the incumbent, for example, and there are new faces, whether or not they have been preferred. So for me, they may have, it may be right for them to sound out the alarm, but it's all part of politics, and it's expected generally that the deputy president should have his own preferred candidate, whether or not they will
Brian, why do you think they're shying away from naming the deputy president? They say that a section of persons in the deputy president's office are attempting to rig the party primaries. Why not just name and shame?
Yeah, sure. I think they are fearing to name and shame because of the influence that the DP exercises within the Rift Valley as a region. And I'm sure that as much as they are talking about the DP, I think there must be some proxies working, in the name of being sent by the DP.
And would these proxies work without the direction or instruction?
Absolutely.
Of the deputy president himself?
They must be, using some intelligence to understand that the proxies perhaps are being used by the DP. But I also want to appreciate, and everybody need to appreciate the fact that the DP is still the kingpin. Absolutely nobody, can take it from him. That is still called the shots in the Rift Valley. And any leader or potential leader who wants to, enjoy the political cake has to sing to the tune of him. And whoever goes contrary to that, I think, is digging his own political grave. The likes of Sudi, the likes of Mandago, they know very well that the ground is turning or is shifting hostile towards them. Now that the DP perhaps is not, working together or closely with them, or they are not enjoying the favor that they ought to enjoy from the person of the DP. And therefore, it's a matter of time that we see them actually being subjected to the political oblivion by the electorate come 8th, if they are not going to gravitate or amend relationships with the DP, so to speak, Lillian.
And Ray, the sentiments coming from the Rift Valley, the clip we've just played for you there, is that a reflection or an indicator that the deputy president might be putting together his lineup for 2022? We also know that in recent developments that in Taita Taveta, Naomi Shaban also defected and is talking about running as an independent candidate.
Lillian, it's very true. We must understand why is this happening, and you've heard what is happening about even the governors. Why is it that, Lillian, some governors are saying they've not performed? Simply because the governor is at the devolved level, and at the DP we'll be talking about the national level, is whereby, Lillian, if you don't have the numbers in the house, then you're not going to be mobilizing. So the DP knows very well, Lillian, that he must have a lineup. The point whereby you're going to be having greenhorns and people that can stay on the gray areas politically are going to be a little bit very risky. And Lillian, one thing that happens within political circles, that if we have a cupbearer masquerading and mentioning, dropping the name of the king, then definitely with William Samoei Ruto as a very strong personality that we know him to be, these people are acting on his call, and they're on his beck and call, and we will not lie to ourselves that they can do these things by themselves. And let's look at historically. Why is Mandago having a problem? The other time we had the Vice Chancellor's case of Professor Hiro, that the DP came out and said that they wanted that to be the VC. And you remember Sudi and Mandago and the team mobilized around and even blocked some of the streets for a whole day, saying that that cannot happen. That time they were marked. And that's where the rain started beating them. To discuss whether they're going to gravitate towards the DP again, then it means gravitating towards the DP means they forgo their seats. And at this point, they're not going to do that, which they're not going to do.
Let's move away from, slightly move away from those sentiments from Mandago and Sudi, and come to President Uhuru Kenyatta. We're talking about the Jubilee nominations, which are slated for this Friday. And the president on Saturday in Murang'a seems to openly endorse Peter Kenneth. Omari, I want to put this question to you. Is this interference, the fact that the president was out there telling the Murang'a people to pray for their son? What are your thoughts on this very bold move from him?
Lillian, I didn't see the president endorse Peter Kenneth. I saw the Jubilee presidential candidate endorse a governor's candidate. One, the president has come out very clearly in Central Province that he is a candidate. His message is to his voting bloc. He does not address the gathering in Mount Kenya region as the president of this nation. He has been very clear that there will be no candidate that will be favored. We've seen what has happened in Rift Valley. Already the name of William Ruto, the deputy president, is being mentioned. In Central Province, jitters are coming. The reality that Jubilee has been laughing and cajoling and making fun of ODM is now here. It is my position that the president has preferred candidates, the whole of Mount Kenya region, who he will want to get their tickets, and they will be given direct tickets or by in any machinations they will be given the tickets, the same way what William Ruto is doing. And I don't think that anybody called Sonko has an option. I've always abandoned this theory that Sonko should have gone for an independent candidate. If he wants to be in Jubilee, then he can only contest in the position of a senator. I tend to believe that the party owners don't want to see anybody jumping the queue. And the president's message in Gatanga was very categorical. The president spoke in a language that entered into the hearts of the people of Murang'a. There is rumor that massive voter transfer of people moved from Murang'a to come and register in Nairobi. Was he addressing that crowd? Because if Peter Kenneth does not get the ticket, I tell you, Lillian, all those voters that were transferred will not vote for the president. So the president has a duty to ensure that everybody votes for him.
And yet, Lumala, when we hear the president openly endorsing a candidate such as Peter Kenneth and steering away from conversations around Mwangi Wairia or indeed Jamlek Kamau, who are candidates in Murang'a, what message is he sending?
I think the message is very clear that Nairobi is an interest area for the president himself as a person. And Lillian, you remember sometime you could have had some leaders from the central region saying that we have to have a leader, we have to have a governor in Nairobi by all means necessary, and therefore this means we are seeing them now coming into play. The reason why the president seems to be gravitating towards endorsing PK as a candidate for Nairobi gubernatorial seat is the obvious reason that the guy being from the central region, again, is a sober fella when it comes to approaching issues. Comparing him with the Sonko, as he has called him Lusongo, I think Sonko seems to be a good mobilizer, but the problem is the fact that he tends to work things irrationally, and this has not really gone down well with the president's expectation of a leader who would be bestowed upon the taking interest of the affairs of the people of Nairobi, which is the most central location for this country in terms of geopolitics of the day. And therefore, bestowing that interest in the hands of Sonko, to him, maybe he saw it unfit and maybe not a wise decision, and therefore he saw it safer placing this kind of responsibility or obligation into the hands of PK, who has shown that he can lead from the times that he was in KFF, the insurance issues, the Gatanga CDF, which he did so well, and therefore he is somebody who is approachable, is a team player. And as much as opinion polls are indicating that Sonko is leading by some narrow margin compared to PK, I think it's a very interesting scenario for us to observe as political analysts, in the sense that while we see PK being the preferred candidate by the president, here comes another person in the name of Sonko, who was a massive ability to mobilize the Nairobians, the Mamambogas, the Vijana, the Matatu Toads and all that. He is able to bring a good number of votes on this, and therefore it will be a very close-knit one. It's a very highly contested one. But the problem is one has to give way to the other come the nomination day, Lillian. And
talking about political alignments, Eunice, I want to put this question to you. Martha Karua seems to be positioning herself closer to the deputy president. What do you see this meaning for her stakes for the Kirinyaga gubernatorial race? We know that she's got a strong contender in Waiguru there. How is this alignment likely to up her chances, if at all?
That's for me, Lillian?
This is to Eunice.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think for me it's very exciting to see Martha coming up, and she seems to be understanding the ground, meaning that her people are more likely to be leaning towards Jubilee, because initially, you remember, Martha was more leaning towards the opposition, so to speak. So seeing her come out strongly is basically a strategy to be able to tackle the issue of Madam Waiguru in Kirinyaga. Seeing her, she's attended 1 or 2 functions with the president himself, and she's actually indicated that she is in that party, and she's realigning and working with the deputy president. And for me, that is very strategic, so that it's her against Waiguru, and the people should know that she is also in the supporting the ruling party. And for me, that's a great strategy. So
right, yeah. Ray, we're hearing the same narrative replaying itself across all these parties, ODM, and now even a section of Jubilee politicians in Central Region crying foul over a hatching scheme of rigging ahead of the party primaries set for Friday. We also saw the defection of Naomi Shaban on Sunday. She seems to have made an about turn. Nobody has made any formal complaints as of now, especially ahead of the Jubilee primaries. Are these legitimate concerns, or are these aspirants just playing politics?
Lillian, as has been said by my colleagues, that it's the day of reckoning is coming, and what we have seen play out in CORD and all the coalitions really tells you what is going to be happening. And Lillian, the president as a person is having preferred candidates, yes. But the problem that they have is that how do we go about making sure that these people take up the tickets without bringing a lot of problems that they have been endorsed. And that now brings us to the point that we have of Mike Sonko. And Mike Sonko does not have more of a successive outlook for the future. And that's why now in terms of Peter Kenneth is a very big tool in terms of aiding the president moving forward. So Lillian, what is happening right now, they are not just mere allegations. In terms of some of these things are going to be allocated in the boardroom. It's only that we have not known who has been allocated, and after it has been allocated on the boardroom, then it has to now be played and sanitized and cleaned out to the public. How it is cleaned.
How is this going to happen? Because this is a party that has previously said that there will be no direct nominations, but now they're battling claims of favoritism and rigging ploys.
Yeah, and Lillian, you see why the problem that they have. Let's look at Kiambu. We have Ferdinand Waititu, and when Omari talked about the loyalists, there are people who have fought for the party. We have the governor, His Excellency Kabogo, who has also really fought for the party. So Lillian, if you are the president, you are spoiled for choice. Who do I sacrifice? And the challenge that they have, Lillian, is that you drop out you drop out a mobilizer. The fear that you have is that then will they deconstruct some of the bases? Will they deconstruct some of the gains that you've made as a party? Will they go and work against the entire party system? So that's a very big challenge. Then Lillian, another thing that you will also have to address is the apathy. That if Brian is a very strong candidate, and then we make sure that through boardroom machinations, and then we clean it outwardly, then some of his supporters are going to be saying that, okay, yes, if we denied our candidate the ticket, then we are not going to vote. So you're also going to be having voter apathy. Okay. So Lillian, the challenge that even the parties have, the challenge that Jubilee has, even in Nairobi, and why Sonko has been still a headache, Lillian, if Sonko was a non-entity, then handling Sonko would have been very easy. But they have been worried. The way even Omari had pointed out, they have been worried. We deal with Mike Sonko. Then where do his supporters go? Cool. Because there are some of his supporters, Lillian, that when he arrived with the Sonko rescue team, some even lie and even cry tears of what this fellow has done and transformed their lives. So that is where we are going.
Brian, just borrowing from that, sacrificing candidates who are very strong, who indeed the president needs to be able to secure enough votes to win a second term.
I think it's not a matter of sacrificing some and elevating the others, but if I may borrow something, Lillian, towards 2022, I think Peter Kenneth being a preferred candidate by the president has something to do with succession politics nationally come 2022. You ask yourself, exit Uhuru Kenyatta, what kind of space are you? Where do you leave the central Kenya? Where do you leave the Mount Kenya region in terms of hierarchy, in terms of leadership? And therefore, maybe to me, as an observer, I would say that it has something to do with 2022. Come 2022, of course, he has been categorical that he's going to support the DP. And again, we are asking ourselves, who would be the safest pair to give the DP some sort of impetus in terms of backup as a running mate? But again, does the law really bar Uhuru Kenyatta from becoming the running mate of the DP? I think that's another discussion for another day, Lilian. But what I want to say is that as a person, the president also has a chemistry with some of the leaders. So instead of dishing out these direct tickets, I think to him is actually coming out in a different way of showing people this is who I would have given a direct nomination given the opportunity, but because of the party values that we uphold, I'm not going to do that, but I'm going to behave in a way that I'm going to point you, this is the preferred candidate as far as me as Kenyatta is concerned. But this again is not only a Jubilee affair, this is also something that is also being experienced within other political parties. Wiper was on the other day, you know, in the same steam where it found itself in the murky waters of Kalonzo Musyoka trying to absolve himself from the blame of, you know, pointing Malombe as a preferred candidate in Kitui gubernatorial seat. This did not go even well with the likes of the party chair Musila, who has worked very closely with the party leader for some time. And therefore, this is not a synonymous issue of Jubilee, but it's a problem which is cutting across all the political parties. Jubilee, I mean ODM, still the same problem, but they went overboard and dished out those direct nominations to candidates, which did not go well with the principles of democracy, which allows people the free will to exercise the fundamental right of picking their rightful candidate without being imposed to them by anybody.
And still on the Jubilee primaries, let's come to you, Omari, on the battle for the Murang'a gubernatorial race and how you see this likely to shape up this Friday. We're seeing a grueling battle between Mwangi Wairia and Jamlek Kamau. How do you think this battle will go on Friday? And
the way I look at it is Jamlek Kamau is restricted to his Kigumo constituency. When you look at Mwangi Wairia, he's traversed the whole of the Murang'a County. I tend to believe that once the president is going, as I've said, the boardroom decisions when when the Jubilee is going to give tickets, direct tickets, hidden as if they are elected tickets, that there was a contest, Mwangi Wairia will get that ticket, Jamlek will have to go for the presidential campaign to assist the president in garnering the support. Really, another issue that comes into the issue, the president did endorse Peter Kenneth. Peter Kenneth is coming to Nairobi. What implication does it have to the politics of NASA? It is very clear that the president has a succession plan that once he retires, Peter Kenneth will be either the presidential candidate in 2022 or he'll be William Ruto's running mate. If the perception in Rift Valley is that Peter Kenneth is being brought the way Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta was brought by retired President Moi, then it might cause jitters within the Rift Valley constituents. Then Isaac Ruto and the others will have a big day to say, look, our brothers in Mount Kenya region are not going to support us because already they have anointed one of their sons called Peter Kenneth to take over the presidency in 2022. If he's going to be the running mate of William Ruto, then the question is Jubilee a locked house for 30-70 years to come? So that if William Ruto takes power, if Uhuru and William take power this year, then 2022 William Ruto becomes the president, Peter Kenneth becomes the deputy until 2032, then 2032 Peter Kenneth will be the ballot. The question NASA will be asking is, where will the other people be? Will Jubilee continue attracting the other communities when they say tuko pamoja? Are they tuko pamoja only for two communities, or are they tuko pamoja when only voting is being done? I could have advised people like Mandago could have followed what Isaac Ruto did, what Peter Munya did, what Professor Kivutha Kibwana did, what Dr. Mutua did. Most governors have their own parties, and that is how they are going to survive. But otherwise, the political parties have preferred candidates, and on Friday, Lillian, Kenyans will be seeing Jubilee naked, and Jubilee will be totally in disarray the way ODM has been.
I want to throw this question to you, Eunice. In Mombasa County, the duo of Suleiman Shebal and Anania Mwaboza, the fact that they seem to be sitting pretty and yet they're taking on a very aggressive politician who is the incumbent Governor Joho, how is this likely to play out this coming Friday? Eunice Lomala?
Okay. Lillian, in Mombasa, Joho and all the recent incidents in terms of his clash with the president has only worked to propel him more into the public limelight. Now, we haven't seen Shabal campaigning very vigorously in the last few days. He seemed to only resurface and be very active when the president is in the region. But nonetheless, I think we should expect the real fight to be between Governor Joho and, you know, if Mr. Omar gets the ticket for Wiper, between the two of them. The real gubernatorial fight should be between those two. I do not expect a lot of competition coming from Mr. Shabal.
Okay, so you're not expecting a lot of competition. Ray, would you say that Shabal and Mwaboza are perhaps angling for an appointive position, and that this perhaps explains why they are sitting pretty and, you know, albeit aloof ahead of the party primaries this Friday? Should Jubilee be re-elected into power, do you see them being more interested in appointed positions as opposed to going for the big gubernatorial seat?
Lillian, that's telepathic from you. I think you've read my mind. That's what I wanted to say. Ali Hassan Joe is likened to an orphan who didn't have school fee, and he got a rich sponsor who sponsored him not only to pass at the national level, but even to register at Harvard. And who sponsored Ali Hassan Joe is the president, the way Eunice has pointed out. That the president and the Jubilee government have made Ali Hassan Joe into the great monster that he has. That even the next level, that even the CORD principal, that is Raila Odinga, must really have a strategy for managing Joho moving forward. I think that's a topic for another day. But Lillian, Mwaboza and Shabal, what they are doing, they are angling themselves for appointments the way you said. And it's not only in Mombasa County. We have very many people who are putting their hearts, who are putting themselves into the fight, not because they know they are going to be winning, but they know that when the shares are going to be shared, then they are also going to be getting something. Either they'll be ambassadors, some of them are angling to become commissioners within government. So I don't see a battle in Mombasa. I see this thing Joho has taken squarely. I don't know what my colleagues are saying about Omar Hassan. As a brilliant person that he is, I don't know why he still is sticking that he's going to be the governor. Lily, that's what I don't understand up to now, Lillian.
Lady and gentlemen, I'd like to get your parting shots on the Jubilee primaries slated for this Friday. Like I said earlier, there's been widespread allegations on rigging, and this doesn't just apply to Jubilee, but you know, we're also seeing the same coming from Wiper and ODM as well. What are we expecting to see this Friday, Brian?
It will be shambolic, so to speak, Lillian. It will be shambolic in the sense that unlike in NASA, where they have variety of political parties to jump from or to work within in terms of Ford Kenya, ODM and Wiper alike. In Jubilee, it's a strict or it's a narrow path for candidates. In Central Kenya and the Rift Valley, I think the narrow path, it is existing in the sense that you do not have much choice to make, Lillian. It's you are on red line or not. If you are not on red line in Central Kenya, then you are out of the political equation. In terms of voting out to become an independent candidate, I think it will be a very hard sell in Central Kenya, so to speak. And therefore, to me, I'm expecting a very chaotic nomination process owing to the nature and the magnitude of interest that has attracted the political seats within that region. And again, this being a very strict, narrow path for candidates, as I said before, Lillian, we are likely to see, you know, party internal mechanisms of resolving disputes being overwhelmed. Because I do not think in this country there is any party, including Jubilee, that has that internal mechanism to address the issues of aggrieved, you know, candidates who feel that things have not been handled in their interest. And therefore, we have another you know, mechanism, which is the political party dispute resolution, which has already been set in place, which is actually laying low, waiting for all the inflows coming from aggrieved candidates from Jubilee and other parties also to be addressed. But I tell you, the in-tray is already full before even the nomination has started, because this is going to be really a hard one for the Jubilee Secretariat to handle.
Eunice, your thoughts?
For me, it's high stakes. The fact that Jubilee is you know, running its primaries the last is both a blessing, but also in disguise, but also it has its own downside. Why? Because it's going to be really high stakes. You know, in terms of the other parties, we've seen what happened to people like Madam Ongoro, where you could somehow go behind the, you know, the deadline or the party hopping law and get a ticket. But now it's going to really be high stakes, because it's coming late in the day and it might be difficult to do that. However, the whole ethics of how a president, for example, when members, two of your members of the party, for example, Sonko and you know, PK as is referred to, Honorable Peter Kenneth, when you have to go and now declare it is this one and whip up emotions for one as against the other, there's an whole topic of ethics, or whether that is undue influence, you know, because of his own position in power. But that is happening because, and we would expect that that should influence the outcome. But I also belong to the school of thought that we should always not be so negative about primaries and, you know, maybe referring to them as shambles, etc. Because political parties are trying. We know the funds for these political parties don't go to all parties. The majority has gone to the biggest parties, we know that. But other parties as well, including Jubilee, are put in place structures to deal with the disputes the best way they can. And I think we should always not be so negative in terms of how we view political parties and the efforts are being put in place. There have been some very progressive laws in place in terms of management of elections, and I think we need to support that effort and build on it, so that going forward we have parties which have not just ad hoc disciplinary internal mechanisms, but they come up with strong boards that are able to sanitize the process.
Right.
You know,
right. And Omari, as we close, Chris Wamalwa had earlier on alluded to the fact that this can be quite an expensive exercise. When we look at the Jubilee party primaries that are slated for this Friday, we do know that they have the highest funding currently. Do we then expect to see a smoother exercise from Jubilee?
Lillian, it's not about how much money or war chest that a party has. Jubilee enjoys the monopoly of resources, the monopoly of logistics, but once it comes to Friday, it will be shambolic, it will be chaotic, it will be the mother of the humiliations all over. The reasons I'm based on this is, one, when the question of party hopping went to Parliament, the tyrant of numbers of Jubilee passed that law without thinking the effect of that law. It will hit them on Friday that they have no any other place to go. Number two, Lillian, when you look at the political parties tribunal, the political parties tribunal that is going to hear these matters, it is going to be two courts, and those two courts are sitting in Nairobi, but the law says that any internal dispute must be dealt with internally. You've seen what has happened with the internal mechanisms of ODM. Ojamong, ODM has said, repeat only in 2 regions where Ojamong is the kingpin. Those are the internal dispute mechanisms that Jubilee is also going to utilize. I think it's going to be chaotic. We are going to laugh. Every Kenyan is going to be entertained. You remember, Kenyans are entertained by violence, Kenyans are entertained by dancing, Kenyans are entertained by how politicians dance. Friday will be the peak of entertainment, because as Tuju puts it very clearly, those ivory tower directives will remain at ivory towers at Pangani. The reality on the ground, the political animal contesting is a very vicious person. And remember, Lillian, no politician will miss to be in the ballot of August. Chirawari Makwere, they have resigned from their jobs. No politician wants to be an ambassador. Those people who the president is saying that you relax, we will give you another job. They are not after these jobs. In my own view, I think that Mount Kenya region is likely, and Rift Valley, to have more independent legislators from the independent candidature than the parties. Jubilee will only succeed in getting the presidential vote in Central Province and in Rift Valley. But on the ground, because almost everybody will be screaming that they have been rigged out, I tend to have a theory that these people have already started collecting their 1,000 signatures to be independent candidates. And on Friday, it is only a showbiz to satisfy the people that they tried and they lost.
Lillian, my final thought.
I wish we could
Lillian, my final thought.
Very briefly, Ray.
My final thought is two things, Lillian. One, people must listen to Omari. He is really vouching for independent candidacy. I think people need to listen to him. Number two, violence is going to be a cross-cutting principle in both parties. The only thing that I believe that Jubilee may have an upper hand, where Eunice had said, alluded to, is that they are going to be managing losses and complaints in one day. So it means, Lillian, they're going to be having thousands of losers. So if they message and brand it well so that losers are going to be coming out and saying that the process was fair, I think they may have a little bit of an upper hand in terms of managing the outcry, simply because they'll be having thousands losing on the same day, rather than compared to COD, whereby we have bigwigs being profiled each and every day that even portrays that the violence has gone for a long time. That's my point.
I thank you for your time this morning. We've been talking to Ray Ochieng, governance analyst. Also with us in studio, Eunice Lumalas, governance analyst. We've also been with Brian Mutia, who's a governance expert, and of course Dunstan Omari, political analyst. We'll be talking to them very shortly for more on Citizen Extra. But before that, the president is expected to preside over the National Drama Gala Festival in honor of this year's winners at Kisumu State Lodge. President Uhuru Kenyatta's visit also comes at a time when the country, or rather the county, is abuzz with political activities as aspirants allied to the region's dominant party, ODM, intensify campaigns to beat the April 24th nominations date. We are going to be looking at the president's possible itinerary in Kisumu County. We do know that State House has termed the visit as a development tour, and we are crossing over to Kisumu to see what is happening there. Those are live images that are coming to us from Kisumu County. We, of course, also had from Manoa Esipisu yesterday about Jubilee's development record in Nyanza, talking about, of course, the party's track record in as far as development. The president is also expected, we understand, to visit Vihiga County, which is the backyard of ANC leader Musalia Mudavadi. We do not know what his itinerary as now will be, but we do understand from State House that this is not a political visit. Those are the pictures we're getting from Kisumu County as of now.
Hello. Maride.
Thanks for staying with Citizen Extra. Moving away from the president's visit in Kisumu, which we'll be having a discussion on very shortly. ODM has resumed their party primaries, and of course we have stationed across the country our team of reporters. We're now crossing over to Kajiado County. Jackie Maribe is in Kitengela. Jackie, update us on what's going on as regards the exercise at this hour.
Right, indeed, Lillian Muli, we are still keeping an eye on the party primaries in Kajiado County. We are currently in Kitengela, that is Kajiado East, and I just want to take you through those who are in the race for the ODM ticket for the parliamentary seat. There's George Rianto Kimiti, Bob Misheni Njagi, Kakuta Mai Hamisi. Those are the aspirants for the parliamentary seat. Of course, as we had mentioned earlier, there are only two aspirants for the Senate seat in Kajiado County: Jeremiah Ture Risa Nakoya and Tinayai Daniel Koilel. Now, what is happening where we are currently? As you said, we're in Kajiado East, we're at St. Monica Academy. The exercise has not kicked off yet. There are a number of complaints here, and from what we're hearing is that the number of ballot papers that had been signed off on by the returning officer was 15,000. Before this exercise began, they are saying that they could only account for 8,000 ballot papers. So where are the other 7,000? These are complaints that people have over here, and the exercise has not started. We can see representatives of the aspirants in a meeting not far from where we are, but we want to hear from a number of people who came very early this morning, and you know, they have a number of complaints. If we can speak to you. Bas, uko tayari sasa kuzungumza na sisi? Lakini toa simu kwanza. Naam. Haya, tueleze jina lako ni nani na shida ni gani hapa?
Mimi kwa mashine naitwa Kefa Francis. Mimi ni mkaji wa Kitengera. Tumeamka leo asubuhi kuja kwa kituo ambacho kinaitwa St. Monica, ambacho ndio main katika Kitengera Kajiado East. Sasa kufika hapa asubuhi tukakatazwa hakuna kupiga kura, kuna ukosefu ya makaratasi kidogo. So kufikia saa hii aspirant wanaendelea kuongea na afisa wanahusika. Hatujui nini inaendelea, tunangojea, tumeambiwa tuongojee ndio tujue kama tunaweza piga kura ama hatapiga kura.
Umeona afisa yoyote returning officer ambao wako hapa, mmezungumza nao, wamewambia nini?
Kuna officers wenye wako responsible kwa county, wametuongelesha, ndio wameita aspirant kwenda kwa ofisi ndio waweza kuongea. Kwa hivyo tunangojea tuchue kama vile watatupea majibu, kuna aspirant wameingia kwa ofisi, so wanaendelea kuongea, tuongojee tuambiwe. Yeah.
All right, we're going to get one more comment from someone here. Your name, please?
I'm Christopher Barasa. Mimi ni mkaaji hapa Kitengela. Sasa hapa ile tukutuku imepatikana tangu asubuhi, tumekuwa hapa. Kitu ya kwanza, gari yenye ilikuwa inaleta hizo paper ballots wakasema imeharibikia sio wapi. Ingine ilikuwa inatakana tukue na ngiri 12 hapa piga kura. Tunapata ni ngiri 8 imefika hapa peke yake. Tunaona sasa inasemekana kwamba ngiri 4 hatujui penye iko na hatujui imeelekea wapi. Hatujui inakorogewa nini. So tumefika hapa asubuhi sana tupige kura, lakini hiyo ndio imekuwa shida. Lakini sasa tumewaita viongozi waje, tunangoja tuone matokeo. Wakisema tutapiga kura tutapiga, lakini kama wakisema hatupigi tutangoja mpaka, kwa sababu tunangojea wenyewe.
Okay. My name is Samuel Marasi. Our concern is that it is getting late. It's around 12 it's noon, and the process has not yet kicked off. We are so worried. Hata wamama wenye wamefunga sokoni, wamekuuza mboga na nyanya wako hapa, na we are in a dilemma. We don't know whether the process will start today or they'll postpone. As in, we are told that there is one aspirant who took 4,000 votes in the morning and ran away with them. We don't know. We don't substantiate the allegations, but we are following that down. Thank you.
We're also hearing, Lillian, that this is not just an isolated issue here in Kajiado. There's also an issue in Nyamira, and so we are trying to reach out to, returning officers in this area, as well as the ODM National Elections Board, for what exactly will, happen from here. As they're saying, St. Monica's, this particular polling station is one of the mainest that they have, and if this exercise hasn't started and it is already known, Lillian, then they're not very sure of the direction they will take. But as we said, the representatives of aspirants are already meeting just not far from where we are, and the indication that we have is that once they come, to a middle ground, some are suggesting that if they agree to go on with this particular exercise, then any other number or ballot paper that is above the 8,000 that they are saying are available then should be nullified. Does this mean then, Lillian, that the ODM NEB will have to take a decision to nullify the entire exercise? Those are answers that we will be getting from them as soon as that meeting is over and we're able to get word from ODM NEB, whether back at the headquarters in Nairobi or from their representatives here. So as soon as we have word on that, Lillian, so will you.
Thank you for that. That's Jackie Maribe. She's coming to us from Kitengela in Kajiado County, and she will be, of course, updating us on developments there in the course of the day. In the lakeside city of Kisumu, President Uhuru Kenyatta is visiting. The president is scheduled to attend the gala ceremony of the just concluded Kenya Schools and Colleges Drama Festival. We want to look at the president's diary. What else could he be up to while on his tour of the region? Let's start with you, Omari. State House says that this is a development tour. Do you agree?
I do agree that the State House has put it very clearly that this is a function of the president. It's a state function. The president is going to see national drama issues. Music festivals are annual agenda. They don't come because Uhuru Kenyatta is the president now. They have been there every year in out, from his father to Moi to Kibaki to him, and it will still continue. The question is, what will be the perception? The perception is that after the president finishes that tour, he will definitely ask for the Kisumu people to vote for him. He's heading to Vihiga. It is a function for the state, but he will campaign. There is a thin line, Lillian, between President Uhuru Kenyatta and candidate Uhuru Kenyatta, because that duality gives the president, just like governors, when they move out to inspect projects for development, it is very hard to differentiate whether they are doing it on their official capacity or they are doing it within the ambit of politics. In my own view, the president's visit to Kisumu has a big boost to his image. During the voter registration, the president did not visit the Luo Nyanza. There was a perception that the president concentrated on his backyard in Mount Kenya region. William Ruto concentrated on the other side, and swing regions like Kisii, Western Meru and Mombasa. So the president is going to assure everybody that he is a president of the whole nation. He's not a president of only one region. That is a plus. Two, the other side might start asking and turn the story the way they turned it when the portal for development that was put to get the propaganda that, you see, the president is coming today, where has he been, nothing has been done. So I hope that the president's group are already alert with how they are going to deal with the aftermath of Raila Odinga's propaganda after the president leaves his backyard. So this is the era of politics. It will be seen as a campaign strategy to land in Kisumu, to land in the territory of Raila Odinga, and give his people who vote for him that confidence that I, as the commander-in-chief and the leader of Jubilee, I am free to go to any region in this nation and I distribute resources equally. If we will achieve, we are yet to see how the propaganda machine rolls up.
Brian,
Brian,
on the same, the president here in Kisumu, but then again, as Jubilee, do you see this as a direct onslaught on ODM strongholds and indeed NASA now, because we understand that he will also be going to Musalia Mudavadi's backyard, which is Vihiga?
Sure. Thank you, Lillian. I think the president's visit to Luo Nyanza is actually reminiscent of what happened in 1969, and it is really sends those memories out to the people there. And why is it an interesting space for us as analysts to observe when the mention of President Kenyatta going to Luo Nyanza? To me, I think those memories are still fresh in the minds of those who were there by then, when scores were injured during the heightened political rally that his father Mzee Kenyatta himself actually experienced in Luo Nyanza when he went to open that hospital. And therefore there are two similarities of that tour and this one. And to me, I think, as Omar has said, it's very hard to separate President Kenyatta as the president, the executive, and also as a candidate for Jubilee Party. But again, there has been those still small voices on the ground saying that Luo Nyanza has been isolated in terms of development. But to me, I do not think it that way, because when you look at the entry of the concept of devolution, it has demystified the way resources are located in this country. We have a CRB, we have a Commission on Revenue Allocation, which looks into other parameters, criteria, including poverty levels, population size, geographical size, in terms of allocating these resources. So Luo Nyanza cannot stand alone and start saying that it has been marginalized by the sitting regime. It has also received its fair share of resources. When you look at counties in the Asal regions, including Marsabit, Wajir, Lillian, you can attest to me, if you have been there of late, that there has been a good transformation in those counties, especially in Wajir and Marsabit, where you go there and you find yourself you are feeling like you are in Nairobi, thanks to devolution. And therefore, Luo Nyanza ought to also have used its 55 billion allocation that it has received since the devolution started to show what they can do to it. And therefore, they ought to now be using the president to go and open up those development projects, other than just the president going there to open a school, music, drama festival. There should be tangible, monumental investments in terms of development in Luo Nyanza that the president should be going to open up for this country.
Eunice, we are closing now. Jubilee's development record in Nyanza, has the region received as much attention as other parts of the country?
I think not. I think not, and that's why there's all this attention about the president visiting Luo Nyanza. I think as a politician and as a presidential candidate, so to speak, as a president, you shouldn't miss a good opportunity to campaign as well. And I think this is a very nice opportunity which is clothed in the festivals, the drama festivals. We would have expected him, if it's purely development as we have had, to do what he's been doing, which is commission this project and open that and cut a bit of ribbons here and there. However, we expect a lot of emotions being whipped when we see the president visiting Luo Nyanza. It's not the first time he's doing this. He did this in 2013 after he got into office. And again, we had a lot of furore about the visit because, the kingpin of the region, Honorable Raila, had lost, and therefore his people were very keen to see what the president is going to do and how Raila is going to react. But there they were together saying, we want to focus on peace and development and move forward. And he's doing it again at the end of his term. So there's a very thin line between him campaigning, and I think he would be doing that in Vihiga County as well, and him standing there as a presidential candidate seeking votes, and we expect him to do that naturally. So I think that would be.
Thanks for that. And finally, Ray, your thoughts on the significance of President's visit to Kisumu County.
Thank you so much, Lillian. I would want to disabuse the sympatonic view that Brian has had. Actually, to remind Brian, is that the president was just the other day for the governor's conference that happened in Kisumu. So there is no big disconnect between trying to compare this with what happened with his father, the founding president. And Lillian, the president is both a candidate and is also the president of the republic. He is the unifying figure of this country. So the president has a right to go in every part of this country. The president has a right to go to Kisumu. And now when we talk about Kisumu, which seems to be more of a very polarized area as far as the support base of the ODM leader is concerned. But I must say that the president is a very likable fella, Lily. And what you're going to be seeing today is that he's going to be received actually very warmly. But now, the thing that is also going to happen is, after he's done the official function, which, as my colleagues have rightly put out, that the drama festival is a state function. After he does the state function, definitely the president must endear himself to the electorate of Kisumu. And I believe he's going to do so, and we are going to get the backlash of that we are going to be getting from the political elite, which I might not see in the citizenry. The citizens, they are going to receive the president. But the politicians, in terms of backstopping the development of the president, we are going to be expecting them saying, what have you done for Nyanza? Then lastly, Lillian, on the dailies today, I saw the indication about this is what the president has done for Nyanza. Actually, in terms of the allocations by the counties, those are constitutional mandates that this country has to actually devolve development to this country. So we don't have to have a president to build for us road, to do this thing for them to be the president. Actually, it's a mandate because we are taxpayers, and this is what we are going to do. But moving forward, I expect the president to speak in a way to say, this is what I've done, and I'm somebody who can be accommodative to the Nyanza people, and even moving forward to Vihiga. So he has a part to play within that part. And it will also reflect on him nationally, Lillian, because people can say, if at this point of party primaries, where we have a lot of volatility, the president can still go to Nyanza, then it means he is a president for all.
Right. And we thank you for your time this morning on Citizen Extra. We are just about to wind up, but before that, we'll be looking at the day's trends with Joy Chalagat.
Hi, Lillian. How are you?
Hello. How are you?